Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time seeing me, my name is Charlotte, and today I'm going to teach you how to knit the 10 stitch blanket. I do mine way different. It's modified from the original version, original pattern, but I will link the original pattern in the description below this video. But I do mine differently. I do not do wraps and turns for my corners, and I do a flat join, and I don't slip any stitches. So that's what makes mine different. I found it too complicated to do the wraps and turns. Not that doing a wrap and turn is complicated, it's just that I always lost track. So this, I don't lose track my way. This is what the front looks like. This is what the back looks like. Don't mind the tails. It's not perfect. I mean, nothing's perfect. It's not perfect, but it looks nice. I think it looks nice. You don't have to agree, but I'm going to teach you guys how I do it. So again, no wraps and turns, a flat join, and we're not slipping any stitches because I always forget to slip stitches. So with that being said, all you're going to need to do this is some yarn and some double pointed needles or some short straight needles, or you can even do it on circular needles. What I'm saying is you don't need a lot of needle to make this because you're only going to have 10 stitches on your needle at any given time. Now I will say, if you want to make it bigger, you can. If you want to do 20 stitches, 30 stitches, as many stitches as you want, you can do that. But I'm just sticking with the 10. I went ahead and I already knit up the first part of the pattern, which calls for you cast on 10 stitches and you do 18 rows. That gives you a square. Now if you do this, you're going to end up with a square blanket. If you want more of a rectangle blanket, you're going to have to knit a few more rows to make this a rectangle. This is pretty much your starting base. Everything is being worked around this center. So again, if you have a square, you're going to have a square blanket. If you have more of a rectangle, you'll have more of a rectangle blanket. So it just depends on how many rows you want to knit in the beginning. But here I cast on the 10 stitches and did 18 rows. Now what I'm going to do is we're going to start our corners. Now the beginning of this pattern is you do your 10 stitches, 18 rows, or however many rows you want, or however many stitches you want, and then you do a corner. And then you do another corner. This is the only time in the pattern that you will have to do 2 corners back to back, right after each other. So I'm going to show you how I do the corners. This is what we're going to do. We're here. Right here, this is where we are. I did a rectangle for this one. So we're here right now. I'm going to show you how to do this corner, and we're going to work our way down. So we're going to be making this center, and then everything else stays the same. Only thing different is when you come to a corner, you'll only have to make one. Only one corner after the first 2 corners are done. I will explain it more because that might have been a little too confusing. But let's get started on our corners. What we're going to do to make life a little easy is after you have knit however many rows you wanted to knit, I always go ahead, not the side with the tail, the side over here, and I put a stitch marker on my very last ridge because when we go to join, we join into these little ridges. I'll show you. There's a ridge there, a ridge there, a ridge there, a ridge there, there, and there. I did 18 rows, so I should have 9 ridges. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Here's my last ridge. That is the very first stitch we're going to go into when we go to join our sides. So I'm going to put a stitch marker there just so it doesn't get lost. And I'm not really keen on these stitch markers. I'm going to also put a stitch marker on this very first one here so it doesn't get lost because that will be the last stitch we go into when we finish our side. So that is what I do just to keep track. You don't have to do that. You can be brave and just go in anywhere the needle will fit, but I like to do that. Okay, so now it's time to start our corner. Now, the way I do my corners, like I said, I don't do wraps and turns. I do short rows, and then I do a modified pickup. I don't even know what you call the pickup. I kind of just created it one day when I was determined to knit the 10 stitch blanket, and I could not get the wrap and turns down, so I came up with my own way. So the first part of our corner is just short rows. And all that means is we have 10 stitches on our needle. We're only going to knit 9. So let's get started. We're going to knit 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. We're leaving the 10th stitch on the needle and we're not touching it. And we're going to turn our work. Make sure our yarn is in the back. And we're going to knit 9 back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So now we did 9, so now we're going to do 8. We're only going to knit 8, and then we're going to knit 8 back. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. We're leaving the 9th and 10th stitch now on this left-hand needle. We're going to turn our work and we're going to knit 8 back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. I like to count out loud or in my head quietly. I did 8 back, so now I know I'm going to knit 7. So I did 8, now I'm going to do 7. And this is what you're going to do all the way until we get to our last stitch. 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So we have 8, 9, and 10 on our left needle. We're just turning our work and we're going to knit 7 back. Making sure the yarn is in the back. You don't want the yarn in front like this. You want the yarn to be in the back. And we're going to knit 7 back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So we did 7. Now we're going to do 6. So we're going to knit 6. These are just your basic, simple short rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. We're going to turn our work, make sure our working yarn is in the back of our right needle, and we're going to knit 6 back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now we're going to knit 5. Turning our work, we're going to knit 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now we're going to turn our work and knit 5 back. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now we're going to knit 4. We have 1, 2, 3, and 4. We're going to turn our work, knit 4 back. 1, 2, 3, and 4. We knit 4. We're going to turn our work and we're going to knit 3. 1, 2, and 3. We're going to turn our work, knit 3 back, making sure the yarn stays in the back. 1, 2, and 3. We're going to turn our work, and now we're going to knit 2, 1, and 2. Turn our work, knit 2 back, 1 and 2. Turn our work, knit 1, turn our work, make sure yarn is in the back, and knit 1. So now we have completed all the short rows, and you can see there are big gaps in between all our stitches. So now what we're going to do is we're going to essentially pick them up to work our way back down. So this is how my modified way of doing it is, and we will go slow when we have another whole corner to do. So it'll be all good. Don't worry, you'll get it. What you're going to do is you're going to take on your way back after you knit your 1 and you turned and you're ready to start working your way back down, you're going to knit the first 2 stitches together, but you're not going to actually knit them together just yet. Watch. You're going to insert into both. So it's like knitting a stitch together. Come behind the second stitch, insert like normal. You're going to wrap your yarn around your needle. You're going to pull it through, but you're not going to take that stitch off. You're going to do like, it's a KFB. It's like knit front and back. But what we're going to do is we're going to pull that yarn up a little bit. We're going to wrap our needle around and we're going to go through the back. So we're going to come through the back of those 2 stitches. Again, through the back loop, but we're not going to do anything. We're just going to slide it off our needle like so. We're going to turn our work, make sure our working yarn is in the back, and see right where this yarn is coming out of. It's like 2 stitches together. We're just going to go ahead and put our needle right back in there, go through, make a stitch, 1, and then we have 1 more left, 2. We will do that again, I promise. And so now those 2 are together. You see how they're nice and close together and these are still all far apart? Okay, our goal is to get all these stitches nice and close together. So for the second time, or the second row on our corner turning, we're going to knit 1, because 1 and 2 are already close together, but 2 and 3 are far apart from one another. So we're going to knit those 2 together. We need them to be together. So we're going to go in together with 3 and 2. We're going to wrap our yarn, bring it around. Do not take it off your needle. Bring it up a little bit. Wrap your needle around. Go in. Oops. Try that again. Go in from the back. And we're going to go out the back of both of those. So they're coming out the back. And then all we're going to do, slide it off. Turn your work. Make sure your working yarn is in the back. And you can see now we have what looks like 2 stitches here that are together. The yarn's coming out of the bottom of these 2 stitches. We're going to put our needle right back in to where that yarn's coming out of. We're going to knit those, slide it off, and then we have 2 and 3. Just like that. Again, we'll do it again. So now we have 1, 2, and 3. So 1 and 2 are close together. So we can knit those as normal. 1, 2. Our 3rd and 4th stitch are really still far away from one another, so we're going to buddy them up and knit them together. So we're going to go ahead, put them together, like to knit 2 together, bring over our yarn, bring it up. We're not taking it off the needle just yet. We're going to bring up a little bit, go through the back loop of both of those. But we're not pulling any yarn through. We're just going to drop our yarn if you need to, and we're just sliding it off the needle. We're going to turn our work, make sure our working yarn is in the back. And now you can see we have like 2 stitches that are together, and then these. And see where our yarn's coming out of right behind these 2 stitches? We're just going to put our needle right back into that same spot to like knit those together and knit like normal, and then continue. Just like that. We're going to turn our work, and now we have these 3 are nice and close together, but these are still far away from one another. This is how I remember to do it. It's kind of silly. I know, it sounds silly. So I need to knit those 2 together. I need to bring those 2 together. So I'm going to knit the first 3 as normal. 1, 2, and 3. And 4 and 5 are far apart. They're not buddies yet, so we need to buddy them up and knit them together. Bring up a little bit. We're going to do like a KFB. Come around. We're going to put our needle in the back of those loops now, but we're not going to bring any yarn through. We're just going to leave it like it is and slide it off. We're going to turn our work, make sure our working yarn is in the back, and right where that yarn comes out of, right behind these 2 stitches, we're going to insert our needle and knit like normal. And there we have that. We're going to turn our work, and now we can see that these 2 are still far apart, so when it comes to it, we got to knit these 2 together. So we're going to knit the first 4 like normal. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 5 and 6 are far apart from one another, so we're going to buddy them up and knit them together. Go in behind both of those stitches as if to knit 2 together. Wrap our yarn, bring it through, but do not take it off your needle. Swing your needle around and come in through the back loop. See the 2 back? We're going to take our needle and we're just going to go through the back, and then we're just going to slide it off. We're going to turn our work, make sure our working yarn is in the back, and right where that yarn is coming out of, you can see, we're going to go ahead and put our needle right in that spot where the yarn was coming out of. Wrap our needle, bring up a loop, and knit like normal. Okay. We're going to keep doing that all the way down, and then we're going to make another corner. So if you are feeling lost or confused, don't worry. We have a whole other corner to do. We are going to knit these. So let's see. You can look at your work. Okay, I can see here that I need to knit these 2 together because there's a big gap in between them. So I'm going to get to there. I got to knit these 2 together. Go in as if to knit 2 together. Wrap your needle, bring it through. Don't take it off the needle. Swing your right needle around. Come in through the back. Make sure you're actually in those stitches and take it off. Turn your work, oops, hit the camera, turn your work. And then we're going to go right in to where that yarn is coming out of. So it looks like you're knitting 2 together again. And then just knit all the stitches. Turn our work. We can see that these 2 are far apart, so we're going to have to knit those 2 together. I'm going to go ahead. I can see that I'm coming close. I'm only going to knit this one and this one. And then we're going to knit these 2 together. So we're going to put our needle in as to knit 2 together, not take it off the needle, wrap our right needle, swing our right needle around, and come in through the back and slide off. Turn your work. Make sure your working yarn is in the back. Right where that yarn is coming out of, we're going to put our needle in, and it looks like we're knitting 2 together. So, and then we knit all the way back as normal. Turn our work. We can see that there's a gap here, so we're gonna have to knit those 2 together. Don't mind the nail, it broke. I was devastated. Okay, sorry. We're going to knit till we get to the gap, one before the gap, because we have to knit those 2 together to close the gap. So I can see my gap is right here. I have 2 stitches before I need to knit 2 together. So there's my gap. I'm going to go ahead and buddy them up. I'm going to put those 2 together, bring up my right needle, swing it around, and go into the back loop. of both. I'm not going to bring up any yarn. I'm just going to slide it off, turn my work, and then essentially it looks like we're knitting 2 stitches together. We're putting our needle right in where that yarn comes out of, and we're knitting. Okay, we have one more left. We have one gap left here. So what we're going to do is we're going to knit 8, and we're going to buddy up 9 and 10 together to close that last gap. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and we're going to knit 9 and 10 together, kind of putting them in both stitches as if to knit together, wrapping our needle, bringing up some yarn, not taking it off, swinging our right needle around, going in through the back of both of those, and just pulling it off. And now we're going to knit those 2 together right where the yarn comes out of. Looks like you're knitting 2 stitches together. Go ahead, knit that one, and then knit your way back. And we have 1 corner. Now, remember I said we have to knit 2 corners back to back. So right after this, we're going to go into short rows again to do our second corner. That is the only time you'll ever do 2 corners in a row, is in the very beginning. But this is what we have so far. We have our corner. So now we're going to make another corner. So to make a corner, here it is, part 2. To make a corner, you're going to do short rows. You're going to knit 9. We have 10 stitches on our needle. We're going to knit 9, leaving the 10th stitch on the left needle. Okay, turning our work, making sure that working yarn is in the back. We're going to knit 9 back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Turning our work, we're going to knit 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Turning our work, we're going to knit 8 back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Turning our work, we're going to knit 7. This is your basic short row. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Turning our work, we're going to knit 7 back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Turning our work, we're going to knit 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Turning our work, we're going to knit 6 back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Turning our work, we're going to knit 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Turning our work, we're going to knit 5 back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Turning our work, we're going to knit 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Turning our work, making sure the yarn is in the back, we're going to knit 4 back. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Turning our work, we're now going to knit 3, 1, 2, and 3. Turning our work, making sure our working yarn is in the back, we're going to knit 3 back. 1, 2, and 3. Turning our work, we're now going to knit 2, 1 and 2. Turning our work, we're going to knit 2 back, 1 and 2. Turning our work, we're going to knit 1. Turning our work, we're going to knit 1 back. Okay, now it's time to make our way back down. Again, starting out, after you're ready to work your way back down and you've knit all your short rows, you're going to knit the first 2 together, but not actually knit them together. You're going to insert like you're going to knit 2 together. Wrap your yarn, bring it through, do not take it off the needle. Twist your needle, your right needle around, and go in through the back loops of both of those 2 stitches. So, like that. You're not going to wrap your yarn, you're just going to pull it off. You're going to make sure your working yarn is in the back. And now you can see our working yarn is coming out from behind both of these stitches. What we're going to do is we're just going to look like we're going to knit those 2 together. And now those 2 are together. They're nice and close together. See how the rest are all nice far apart? Well, our goal is to get all these stitches nice and close together. So 1 and 2 are close together, so we're going to knit 1. But now we have to get 2 and 3 close together, so we're going to knit those 2 together. In a sense, we're going to bring up our yarn as if to knit them together, but we're not actually going to take it off the needle. We're going to swing our right needle around and we're going to go in through the back loop. And then we're just going to push it off. We don't have to actually bring up any working yarn. And now it's going to look like we're going to knit these 2 together. See where our working yarn is coming out of? We're going to put our needle right back in there and knit those 2 together. And then finish up that row. Turn your work. Now we have to get 3 and 4 close together. So we're going to knit those together. It's kind of like knitting them together. 1 and 2 as normal. We have to get these 2 together, so we're going to put them together. Act as if you're going to knit them together. Do not take it off your needle. Swing your needle, your right needle around and go in through the back loops of both of those stitches and slide it off. Make sure your working yarn is in the back and insert your needle right where that working yarn is coming out of. So it looks like you're knitting 2 together. And then knit as normal. Turn your work. Now we have to get these 2 close together. So when we get to them, we will knit those together. 1, 2, and 3. So we're going to knit 4 and 5 together. Go into both. Act as if you're going to knit them together. Bring up a little bit of yarn, swing that needle around, and go in the back loops of both of those stitches. Slide it off the needle. Turn your work, knit those together. Your working yarn will be coming out of the bottom of both of those stitches. Knit those 2 together. Looks like you're knitting them together. And then knit as normal. Turn your work. We're going to get these 2 together. So we're going to go ahead and knit the first 4. We have 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so now we're going to knit 5 and 6 together. Bring up yarn, swing it around, go in the back, slide it off. Turn your work. We're going to knit those 2 together. Your yarn will be coming out of the bottom of both of those stitches. And knit like normal. Oops, split the yarn there. Okay, turn your work. Now we have to get those two together. We're gonna knit till we get to those two. We're gonna knit these two together to close up that gap. Swing it, go in the back, slide it off. Turn our work. Knit those two together. Your yarn will be coming out of the bottom of both of those stitches, so it should be easy to see where you need to knit them. And continue knitting. Turn your work. And we're just going to keep working and closing these gaps by knitting them together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to knit 7 and 8 together. Bring up some yarn. Do not take it off your needle. Swing that needle around and go into the back loops and then just slide it off. Turn your work. Make sure your working yarn is in the back and knit those two together right where your yarn is coming out of the bottom of those two stitches. And then turn your work. We got to close up the gap between 8 and 9. So we're just going to go ahead and knit 7 because we need to use 8 and 9 together. So we have that. We're going to knit those two together to close that gap. Bring it through, swing it, but don't bring up any yarn and just slide it off your needle. And then lose your stitches. That's okay, because it was the last one. Don't do that. But hey, it happens, you know. That's what happens. Knit those two together. Got to be more careful, because that could have been bad. No, I'm not really good at fixing mistakes, so I probably would have just cried and started over. In all honesty, that's probably what I would have done. Okay. Turn your work, and now we have to close up this last gap here. So what we're going to do is we're going to knit 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and then we're going to knit 9 and 10 together. Bring up our loop, swing it around, go into both of those back loops, pull it off, and we're going to knit those first two. It looks like we're knitting them together. Knit those two, and then knit our way back up. Excuse me. Okay, now we've done both corners back to back, both corners. Now we can start joining along the side. Now remember how I put that stitch marker in there? That's where it comes in handy, because that's going to be the first stitch we pick up is going to be right there. We're going to pick up this stitch. So we are going to knit 10 stitches. Now we're picking up from the side for our flat join. So we're going to knit 10 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And now right where our stitch marker was, we are going to take out our stitch marker, and we're going to insert our needle right where that stitch marker was. That's going to be our first pickup. And all you're going to do is just insert your needle in there like that. Turn your work, and you're going to knit those two together. And that's it. That's how you do the flat join. Pretty easy. No slipping stitches. I forget to slip stitches, and let's be honest, I'm not going to remember to slip stitches. So that's why I like doing it this way. Gives a nice flat join, and you just go along the line, picking up those ridges. I'll show you a few more times here. You're going to knit 10. You just knit all the stitches on your needle, pick up that little ridge there on the edge, and knit those two together. So I knit 10. I'm going to come here. Here's my next ridge. I'm going to go into that, turn my work, and knit those two together. That's all you have to do. Knit 10, pick up that ridge, knit those two together, and you have a flat join. Like here would be the next ridge, 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 and then we marked our last ridge. So you just keep doing that, and when you get here, once you've picked up all your stitches and you have a nice flat join, you're going to do another corner, but just one short row and one pickup side, and then you don't have to do double corners, just one corner. So again, one row, like one short row, one phase of short rows, and then one phase of picking up all those stitches, and then you can go in to joining along here. When you get here, you'll do another corner, just one corner. We did 2 corners back to back here. You just need to do 1 corner and then pick up your stitches. And then when you get here, you're gonna do another corner, just 1 corner, and then you're gonna pick up your stitches. When you get here, you're gonna do just 1 corner, then you're gonna pick up all your stitches, and it just keeps growing and growing and growing and growing. So I started here, I did 1 corner, 2 corners back to back. That's the only time you have to do 2 corners back to back. And then I picked up my stitches, and then I did a corner. And that's all you do. It's just corners and picking up stitches. So that's how I do the 10 stitch blanket. That's how I've modified it to make it a little easier for me, and I hope a little easier for you. So if you enjoyed this video, and I know it was very long, but I hope I was able to help somebody, please like, subscribe, share, comment. I mean, all those things help me out greatly, and I need all the help I can get. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.